Welcome to my channel. Today I'm really excited because I have a very special personality here with me. She talks about NBA, NFLs. She's a sports reporter. She has covered Super Bowl, NBA. She's a broadcaster, radio presenter. She runs her own radio show, Listen with KNN. She has won Next Generation Entertainment Award as Best On-Air Personality. And recently, she's on a new journey with Bally Sports, where she's covering all NBA playoffs. Oh my God, there's lots happening here. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, welcome to my podcast, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my delight and honor to be here. I like kind of sometimes escaping from sports and just getting to talk to people. But again, excited to be here. Thank you so much also for a great introduction. So I'm excited for what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, it's really great. And please tell people who don't know you, what do you do? Actually.
Yeah, I think you did such a great synopsis, but as you said, I'm Kelsey Nicole Nelson. I am based in the DMV area. So for those in London and abroad, that's the DC, Maryland, and Virginia areas. And here is where I do a plethora of jobs, but working in sports and entertainment. So basically I get to cover your favorite athletes, interview your favorite athletes, and bring you those stories. As you said, I just started a brand new venture with Bally Sports National, covering NBA playoffs and heading to the NBA finals, which is super fun time here in the US because we love our basketball, which has been great. As you said, also working with Fox Sports Radio, where I have my own radio show and podcast called Listening with KNN. And that one comes on twice a week, which is great. And I welcome in special guests each week to talk with me about the latest topics happening in sports. I also have an internship program through that. So I'm managing some great college students here in the US. I'm also back at my alma mater, Georgetown University, working with capstone students. So graduate students who are working on their thesis projects. They're almost done. They're getting ready for graduation. So that's been fun. And I host a lot of events. I work with Special Olympics International and Special Olympics DC, which is near and dear to my heart. I also have a community action project called Books Breaking Borders, Books to End Educational Bankruptcy. And that looks, of course, to make sure that we end illiteracy rates in the United States, especially with our Black and brown children, to make sure that they're able to get on grade level and graduate. So that's a little bit of the kind of my venture and what I'm currently doing.
That's really amazing what you just said. I'm wondering, only 24 hours in a day, how you manage all these things? Like, you don't sleep at all, you don't eat, you don't go out with friends. How you do it?
Oh my gosh. So that's the big question. So all my friends ask me that. I'm still trying to figure out how I even do all these things in 24-hour span. I've learned time management skills. Thank you, college, for teaching me the best way to make the most of my time. But you know what? I always say people make time for what they want to make time for. And I make time for my loves and my passions. This is what I live to do. This is what I'm breathing. And I've wanted to do all this stuff that I'm doing since I was 3 years old. Like everybody that knows me knows this is what I talked into existence. This is what I've manifested. And now I truly am living out my dreams. But for me, it's just, priorities, right? And so obviously sports coverage, I have my phone glued to me all the time because there's always breaking sports news that needs to happen. And then I just make time for everything else, right? Like you just have to get your life in order. But it can work, people. I promise you can do multiple things because I tell people all the time, like, I'm not just, you can't put me in one box. I do things in sports, education, entertainment, and I love that. But it's making sure that I'm able to give 110% to everything that I do because I never want to be half me or not all of my energy and not my whole self. So, I make sure I'm rested. Now, I'm lucky to get 4 to 5 hours of sleep, but I'm okay with that, right? Because somehow my body is still able to function and I'm still able to do everything else that I'm able to do.
I guess it's all about prioritizing your work.
It is.
And also,
it is. You do.
So if you love the job you do, I think it's much easier than certain tasks. But what's the inspiration doing so many things, helping others on various platforms and being a sports presenter?
Of course, that's a great question. And, as you said, it's about, doing what you love. And so for me too, I should say my phone calendar, like if it's not my calendar, I'm going to probably miss it. I live by my calendar. Every single thing is in there so I don't miss anything. But when you talk about the inspiration behind what I wanted to do, so I grew up in the DC area, but I used to spend my summers in Jackson, Mississippi. And I don't come from a lot of money. My parents always told me, if you want something, hard work will pave the way. Dedication, determination, and discipline have kind of been the 3 Ds that I've lived my life by. And so my entire life, I felt like I've been an underdog. I wasn't supposed to make it. Many times when I was in school, I was the only person that looked like me. So I felt like I was always counted out against. But I'll never forget, like watching the news with my parents at night and seeing these people on TV talk. And I remember I'd ask my parents, like, how many people are they talking to? And they're like thousands and millions of people. I'm like, really? Like, they're able to talk to all these people and like touch all these people's lives, and they're in everybody's homes. And I've always wanted that. I love the power of storytelling. Growing up, I did a bunch of oratory contests and essay contests. I love writing. I was the kid that like, give me a long essay project and I've got that. When you tell me to write 500 words, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's not enough space for me to convey all of my, thoughts. But for me, seeing people that look like me in spaces, but also seeing places where that weren't people that looked like me, that's kind of my inspiration that fueled me to do what I wanted to do. And I'll never forget when my family got tickets to go to our first professional sporting venue, and we were all the way up in the nosebleed seats. And I said, one day I'm going to get down there. I'm going to get down low, and I'm going to be covering these stories and telling these stories. And that's something I'm so humble for. So every time I walk into an arena or a stadium, I never forget where I come from. I never forget who I am. I never forget how much of a blessing it is, right? To be walking in my purpose, walking by faith, and being there. So my inspiration is honestly like, my inspiration is other people doing what they love. I've always wanted to do that. I never kind of wanted to be stuck in a job. My parents, always said, you live once, make the most of that life. So do what makes you happy. If you haven't noticed, I like to smile. I like to give radiant energy. My job makes me smile. I get to meet new people every day. I'm interviewing people every day. I'm getting to travel, especially now that COVID is subsiding somewhat. We're still in a pandemic, but subsiding somewhat. And I love that. So that's my inspiration right now, to just be all that I ever wanted to be, and know that I don't have to just do one thing. I've always been into education. One of my favorite quotes is, we stand on the shoulders of giants, to whom much is given, much is required. Growing up, my parents worked a lot. So I went to a bunch of daycares and after school programs. I'm a Boys and Girls Club kid. So I had so many counselors and teachers and educators touch my life. And I wanted to do the same thing. So I'm trying to pass on all the good that was done unto me. And one more thing I'll say is, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And so for me, it's all about legacy. And I want my legacy to be helping other people get to where they want to be, hopefully be their inspiration. It's why I have mentees. It's why for the National Association of Black Journalists, I co-lead our mentorship committee, because seeing is believing. Diversity wins, representation matters, and so important that so many of us put ourselves in places and spaces to show that diversity truly is important in all that we do.
No, very well said. And I fully agree with you when you said you have to be grateful for everything you got. Even you wake up in the morning and you say,
that's a blessing. Yeah, taking your breath in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. You saw the new day, the new light. Yeah, it's very well said. So going through all these different sports arenas, and you have covered some top sporting events.
Yeah.
Which one was the highlight for you so far?
Yeah, so I grew up in a football family. My dad went to Grambling State University. So football was my first like sporting love. So for me, it definitely has to be Super Bowl. I'll never forget covering my first Super Bowl in Atlanta. And when you get to the Super Bowl, like you're around all of these like top journalists and celebrities. And it's kind of like your made it moment, because getting to the Super Bowl is not easy, right? You do a lot of work throughout the year covering the beat for a team, but being at the biggest game in the United States and one of the biggest games in the world, there is nothing like that. You see Super Bowl ticket prices, you see what people are paying to be there, what they're paying for parking. You see these celebrities performing at halftime. You see these two teams that have worked so hard to get there, all the storylines leading up to Super Bowl week. And then you're there the whole week on Radio Row, literally interviewing people nonstop. Like Super Bowl week, I'm working 16, 18-hour days doing nonstop interviews with celebrities and former athletes. But for me, like I always had dreamed about going to the Super Bowl and had watched it on TV every year, like religiously and relentlessly. So to finally get there for me, it was like my full circle moment. And it just showed that truly you can be anything that you want to be in this world, as long as you put the right work behind it. And as long as you're genuinely a good person, I truly do believe that good things will happen to you.
Yeah. So, so would you say that was when was the first step actually you taken which changed your life to be in the Super Bowl movement, or before that, or earlier? Everyone has this in their life at some point. Like,
that moment, right?
I'm glad I took that step and I moved myself, I pushed myself. When was that moment for you, you can say?
Yeah. So for me, I'll go back to college when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Maryland. I had been working in sports, doing a bunch of internships, but I realized like everything that I had been doing, everybody else had it on their resume too. So like what was going to separate me from the pack? So I applied for the NASCAR diversity internship program. Mind you, I had never watched NASCAR as a fan. I did not follow the sport. I really didn't know what NASCAR did. And it was in a whole different state. But I said, I want to challenge myself. And something that I've learned working in media is that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So putting yourself in new situations and places. And I wanted to be challenged. I was doing so much easy work, like something that would be new to me. So I apply. Next thing I know, I find out I get in during finals. I'm taking finals in college. And they're like, we need you to be in Charlotte in like a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got the internship, but oh my gosh, wait, I have to move to Charlotte and I only have a week to do this. And so I called my parents. I'm like, this is great, but like, how are you going to get to Charlotte? Like, where are you going to be living? But lo and behold, I get on the plane. I go down to our internship, like orientation, which is 2 to 3 days. I have no plan though. And luckily I met some really great people. I had a great friend, Lauren, that I met during my NASCAR diversity internship orientation. She actually lived in Charlotte because she was a graduate of the University of North Carolina. And so the first week I'm working for NASCAR, I'm sleeping on her couch. Like, thank gosh, I'm sleeping on her couch while I'm looking for housing in the Charlotte area with the stipend that they gave us. And mind you have an internship stipend. It's a little bit harder to find housing, but luckily I found some student housing and I had 3 other roommates and I get in there. But for me, working for NASCAR and especially working for NASCAR, and it's not a place, I think now they're taking many more steps to become diverse, but me being a Black woman in NASCAR, it was so different and so unique. And I had such a different experience. And even having to move somewhere else, learn the culture, learn the people, learn a whole sport. And I worked in their communications department. So part of my job was booking our NASCAR drivers on radio shows and different television shows. So I would try to book them on shows that not just for like their sports, but for like their interests. So like if they're into country music, trying to book them on country music stations. And that's not something I was like used to, but it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And so after I think I had worked for NASCAR and people saw that I had something like NASCAR on my resume, showed that I moved somewhere else, showed that I learned a new sport and did this in college. I think that for me was like the turning point where people saw like, this is somebody that we can kind of toss anything and she's going to make the most of it. Because I was down there, I became the team lead intern. So I was planning lunch and learns with staff and I was kind of organizing all the different interns for internship activities. And then lo and behold, years later now, I'm still like a spokesperson with NASCAR and I'm able to go talk about my internship experience and get more young people interested in the sports in NASCAR, especially people coming from marginalized communities or communities that NASCAR doesn't necessarily reach. And so for me, it was kind of a full circle moment. I'm still close with my NASCAR internship advisors and other people I call friends and colleagues. But yeah, coming back to DC, with NASCAR on my resume, it kind of immediately pulled me away from the pack. And I felt like other jobs and internships were easier to get. And even still to this day, people want to talk to me about NASCAR because I'm a different voice that's talking the sport. And you don't always see people like me that are covering NASCAR. So I bring a different perspective and I talk through a different lens, right? And that's what they want, especially as the sport is continuing to expand. And so I'm so glad I took that leap of faith and I took a chance, right? I applied somewhere. I didn't have anywhere to live. But I trusted the process, right? I trusted my faith. I trusted my God and everything kind of worked out. So I'm so thankful for that experience till this day. And honestly, I would go back and do it 100 times over if I could.
Oh, great. So what I'm getting is trust and faith, okay? Pushing the boundaries, pushing your limits, go out of your comfort zone.
You have to, yes.
You have to, that works. And lots of people just stay on the place, although they are doing good, but they're not moving forward because all of these things that they don't want to go out of that league or out of that circle.
Exactly, right. Because we get so comfortable sometimes doing things and you're like, well, why change the norm? Right. Yes. And some people that's okay for, but for me, I wanted more and I had to find a way to make myself different. And once you've put yourself in challenging situations, it shows employers that they can toss you anything and that you can handle adversity, that you can handle going through trials and tribulations. And everybody is going to want somebody that can prove that because they know you're going to be a team player, you're a problem solver, you can think on your feet. And those are all good assets of a good employee.
100% agree. Yeah. So now you teaching also introduction to radio and podcasting and others to reach their goals. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's again, life coming full circle. Never had plans growing up to be a teacher or professor, but next thing you know, you're working in media and that opportunity actually came to me. Some people reached out, saw me doing broadcast work, like you are doing it on a high level. Like, how would you like to teach? And I thought it was great. And I had done a bunch of I had a bunch of mentees and I was going to speak to a lot of students at school, but to actually be able to teach. And I thought this course was actually really cool because it's called Intro to Radio and Podcasting. And the students are actually running a Sirius XM station. They're the only Sirius XM station run by high school students. Incredible that these kids are getting experience so young. And so for me, I wanted to be able to do that because in high school, the most I got to do in media was I was over a high school yearbook and I would sometimes read the morning announcements. But now these kids are getting radio experience, right, on an actual radio station in high school, learning how to work the soundboard, learning how to produce shows. It's incredible for me to be a part of. And they also teach me a lot as much as I teach them. And so, of course, radio, I think, is one of those industries that some people thought was dying for a bit. But radio's come back stronger than ever, especially sports talk radio. And then podcasting, as you know, has blown up tremendously. It seems like everybody has a podcast now. And I think obviously people like podcasts because you don't have to listen to them in real time. You can go back and listen to them whenever you want. And so these kids are able to make podcasts, do interviews early, learn what it is to book guests and, talk on topics that they want so young and so early. And so for me, I love it because I learned something from them, especially social media wise. They showed me how to be cool on TikTok, which is good because I need a better TikTok presence. But then for me, it's me giving back in my own way and showing them the things that I wish I knew earlier on in my career, but also teaching them the things that they need to know to succeed in this industry. Because I truly do believe that there's room for anybody that wants to be in media to work in media. And I want to make sure that these young kids, these young budding journalists, have all the tools that they need to succeed to have long, successful, fruitful careers in media.
I think it's great, that remember where you come from and going back to your community and give something back. That's a great initiative, and not many people do that. When you reach on certain point or certain level. Yeah. So doing so many things and being successful, right? Do you think that luck plays a part in that to be successful, or it's just the hard work?
Yeah, so I'm going to quote Nicky Minaj, one of my favorite rappers, when she says, "No, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed." And the reason why I'm very careful with luck, I do think luck plays a part in things. Sometimes it's timing, right? So sometimes things just happen at the right time. You were in the right place, but there is no substitute for hard work. I'm somebody, my last semester of college, I had switched majors. So I went from psychology to journalism. And so my last semester, I was taking 26 credits. All right. I was working very hard in my last semester of college just to graduate. I've had so many no's for jobs, right? But I've done a lot of the legwork. I started out covering high school sports. I've done radio, television, print. I worked over to going to college sports to now professional sports. And the reason why a lot of people like my work or want to hire me is my tenacity and because of my hard work. But not only because of my hard work, because I'm doing good hard work, right? I'm making the most of my time. And so I think, again, luck plays a part. Sometimes you meet the right person at the right time. Yeah. But even with that timing, you're gonna have to have something to give them, right? Then all of a sudden say, "Oh, I met you. You're awesome." Maybe like 1 in a million times, because you're so awesome, I'm gonna give you a job. Usually you're gonna say, "Oh, I met you. You're awesome. Can you send me your resume or something that you've done in the past so I can see what you do and maybe we can find a way to work together." And that's where that hard work is going to go. When you work hard too, people talk about you in good ways. Your name's going to be in places that you don't even know. And I've gotten, especially as a freelancer, all of my jobs come from literally word of mouth usually, right? People say, "Oh, Kelsey's great at this." Amazing. Exactly. You should hire her for that. And so I say for me as a freelancer, everything I do is an audition because I'm putting everything that I do on tape and putting it out there into the world, even how we connected and people reach out to me through social media. Yeah. And because they respect what I do, they respect my grind, they respect my grit and hustle, then they want to reach out to me and work. Because I know if I hire Kelsey Nicole Nelson, she's going to bring 150% to this job. She's going to be relentless. She's going to be detail oriented. I am a perfectionist at things that I do, and it's going to be great quality work. And I tell people all the time, that's why it's one thing to get in a door, but it's one thing to stay in that door and feel comfortable and secure in that door. And that's where hard work will lead you. Luck might get you in, but hard work will keep you there until you are ready to leave.
Correct. Amazing message. Whoever is listening, especially the people who wants to go and explore and go up higher in their respective fields. I think it's a great message.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What would you say to someone who wants to change their life and they have ideas? A lot of us has ideas, right?
Yeah.
But we just keep thinking and we don't take that step, or we don't move forward because of obvious issues. What my family will say, or friends will make a joke on me,
Yeah.
what message you will give to person like
Yeah.
what they should do?
Of course. Well, for one, I mean, the motivation starts within. You have to be your biggest believer, your biggest supporter. I say, don't listen to the outside noise. I think, early on in my career, I let other people's expectations of me dictate what I was doing. And I was living for everybody else, but I didn't find my true happiness or joy. But when I started listening to me, and going through my own challenges and trials and tribulations, that's when I found my happiness. Again, listen to you. You can get feedback from other people, but again, it starts within you if you really want to change your life. For people that have dreams, know also that you're never too old for something. I have people reach out all the time and they're like, Kelsey, I'm in my 40s or 50s and I want to get into media. I don't care. If you're good, you can get into anything at any time. Even me, I thought I was done school. Now people have talked me into maybe getting a doctorate. I'm 29. I'll put it out there. So I don't know. Maybe I am older in school, but guess what? I don't care. It's more so what I want to do. But I think the biggest thing, a piece of advice I'd give, and it's something that I heard, is a dream without action is a hallucination. I'll say it again. A dream without action is a hallucination. You don't want hallucinations because hallucinations aren't real. And so your dream you can have, but you need to put an action plan behind that. How are you going to get there? That's what I always ask people. My first question is, what do you want to be in life? And they tell me what they want to be. And then I say, well, how are you going to get there? And that's when they usually pause and kind of look at me, and they're really taking a step back and thinking. And it's because, again, we're always asked, what do we want to be? But you have to think about the steps to get there. And then my third question to them is, okay, so if that plan doesn't work out, what's your backup plan? So I think that's what it is. You have to plan out your life, but you also have to realize many times when we want to go in a straight line, you're actually going to end up going like this and swerving and kind of curving to get to where you want to be. So have that backup plan, have that plan. But again, make sure that that dream has steps, concrete steps behind it for you to reach your goal. My last piece of advice would be to always bet on yourself. All right. People go bet on everything. I know gambling is like a huge industry now, but the biggest bet that you can make is right here
On
with you.
Yes.
So make that bet on yourself.
That's great. I like it. I loved it. Loved it. So, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was fun. I love to go overseas. I got to get to London. I keep getting asked for things. So hopefully when COVID subsides more, I'll get to go back overseas.
Anytime when you are here, give me a shout. And thank you so much once again. I know you're very busy. So thanks a lot to being here. And I will see you very soon and talk to you later. And to my audience, thank you very much as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And great job. Again, thanks for having me. Bye, guys.